Flip research vessel. This is the ship that behaves like a glitch in naval physics, a long structure that starts horizontal, then slowly becomes vertical in open ocean. Not for show, not for entertainment, for science. The idea was to create a platform so stable in deep ocean conditions that waves would become irrelevant. So engineers designed a system where the ship partially floods itself and rotates upright until it stands like a floating pole in the sea. And once it's in position, it barely moves. Storms pass, waves hit, and the structure just stands there like it stopped caring about the surface entirely. Inside, everything is built for dual reality. Floors become walls, beds rotate, kitchens are designed to survive both orientations like the ship can't decide what gravity means today. It's one of the few vessels where normal operation includes flipping your entire living space. Trimaran ships. These boats look like someone took a normal ship and said, what if stability was multiplied by 3 and logic was optional? Instead of one hull, they have 3, a central body and 2 side hulls, like floating wings that keep everything balanced at high speeds. The result is a ship that is fast, stable, and surprisingly efficient, but also looks like it belongs in a futuristic naval experiment that escaped into real life. Engineers love them because they cut through waves with less resistance, but visually they always look slightly wrong, like a ship that loaded incorrectly but still decided to function anyway. And just when you think we've reached the limit of weird but functional, Seawise giant, this isn't just a boat, it's basically a floating city that somehow convinced physics to let it exist. At full size, it was so massive that smaller ships looked like toys drifting next to it, like a floating skyscraper that forgot it was supposed to stay on land. It was built to transport oil across oceans in insane quantities because apparently normal tankers were too small for the 1970s energy appetite, so engineers just kept stretching it and stretching it until it became the longest ship ever built. The problem is, when something becomes that big, turning it becomes a polite suggestion rather than a command. It needed kilometers of water just to adjust its direction, like trying to turn a floating football field in a bathtub. And here's where it gets funny. Despite looking completely cursed, it actually worked. It sailed for decades, survived wars, and even got bombed once and still refused to die. Which is ironic because most ships sink if you look at them wrong. This one got hit and basically said, I'm fine, and kept working. Hydrofoil boats. These things are basically boats that get embarrassed of the water and try to leave it completely. At low speed, they look normal. But once they accelerate, hidden fins under the hull lift the entire boat above the surface like it's levitating. So instead of cutting through waves, it starts flying just above them. No splash, no drag, just smooth, eerie motion like it's ignoring water entirely. Engineers built them to make boats faster and more efficient because lifting out of the water reduces resistance dramatically. And it works, until it doesn't. Because hydrofoils are extremely sensitive, one wrong wave, one imbalance, one sudden shift in weight, and the whole thing can drop back into the ocean like reality snapping back into place, which makes them feel less like transportation and more like controlled floating anxiety. Stealth warships. These boats don't want to be seen at all. Not because they're small, but because they're designed to disappear from detection entirely. Their shapes look wrong on purpose. Sharp angles, flat surfaces, unusual hull geometry. Nothing smooth, nothing natural, like someone designed a ship using broken mirrors instead of blueprints. They reduce radar visibility so much that they almost don't exist on tracking systems, which creates a weird paradox, a giant machine that is physically present but electronically absent. And the ocean hates that kind of ambiguity. These ships move quietly, deliberately, like they're trying not to disturb reality itself. Flying boats. These things look like someone couldn't decide if they wanted a plane or a ship, so they just said both and hoped reality wouldn't notice. They float on water like normal boats, but then suddenly transform into aircraft and take off from the ocean surface like it's completely normal behavior. During the early aviation era, this was actually genius, because airports didn't exist everywhere but oceans did, so engineers used water as runways. The problem is, water is not exactly a stable runway. Waves don't care about your flight schedule. Wind doesn't respect engineering deadlines, so takeoff often felt like trying to launch a metal bird from a moving trampoline. But when it worked, it looked like science fiction before science fiction existed. Icebreaker ships. These are not boats. They are ocean bulldozers with anger issues. They look like normal ships until you see the front, which is shaped like someone designed it specifically to insult ice. The entire purpose is to drive directly into frozen seas and crush them apart using pure weight and reinforced steel. Instead of going around obstacles, they just go through them. Ice doesn't break gently either, it explodes under pressure, splitting like the ocean is cracking open. But here's the weird part. Icebreakers don't move fast. They move with slow, unstoppable confidence, like a tank that decided water is just a suggestion. And the craziest thing? Some of them can get stuck in ice so thick they literally wait for months, just frozen in place like a ship in timeout. And while those ships fight frozen oceans, others were built to do the exact opposite. Circular boat. A ship that looks like someone forgot to assign it a direction. No front, no back, just a perfect floating circle drifting through water like geometry escaped into reality. The logic behind it was deceptively simple. Circular shapes distribute wave force evenly, meaning fewer weak points during storms. In theory, it should be incredibly stable. In practice, it became something else entirely. Steering it felt unnatural. The ocean didn't respond the way captains expected. Movement lacked clarity, like the boat was always slightly uncertain of where forward actually was. Docking it was worse. It didn't align, it negotiated. Nuclear-powered ships. These are exactly what they sound like. Ships powered by onboard nuclear reactors. Instead of fuel stops, they can run for years without refueling, which sounds efficient until you realize you are literally sailing with a miniature nuclear reactor under your feet. They were mainly used in military and icebreaking operations, where endurance matters more than anything else. And to be fair, they are incredibly powerful. They can travel long distances without stopping, cutting through frozen oceans like time doesn't apply to them. But they also come with one major psychological problem. Nobody is fully comfortable with the phrase floating nuclear machine. So while they are engineering marvels, they remain rare, controlled, and slightly terrifying by design.